All right, welcome back everyone. Second tutorial that we're going to be doing. The first tutorial you can find on the MFans YouTube channel. So if you just type in like MFans YouTube, click on it. And we have like introduction to NFL data with R. So like for those watching on YouTube, if you haven't watched this video yet, be sure to watch that one. And then this will be the second tutorial. So this one is like, it's going to be very focused on data viz because like, most people want to make graphs with this data that they make with NFL data. So I thought it would be good to focus on it. And we also will learn like a lot of new skills and everything as we go through it. So, for anyone that needs like the visual learning, which I'm a visual learner too. So you can type in Tateseth GitHub or just like come to my GitHub. And then if you click on repositories, there's NFL tutorials 2022. So then just click on this one and it'll have all the code that we end up writing today. And then for those on Zoom, I'll put them in the chat in case you need it. And so, yeah, so just you can have this open that way in case I'm going too fast through something or you need to copy and paste something, you can just come to this GitHub and do that. So last week, we installed a couple packages and we loaded in data and like kind of figured out how to aggregate it. This week, we're going to be making some graphs and some tables that look really nice. So, the first thing we want to do, and I apologize for forgetting to do this last week, was we need to like create like a script first. And I forgot how to show this. So if you come up here and you click on like the plus sign, like usually when you open RStudio, it should look like this, and like you won't have stuff here if you haven't been coding in it, but you have like your R project right here. And so if you come here and you click on script, that'll open up something where you can just type a bunch of code on and you can run it and you can edit it. You don't want to be typing too much code down in the console because it's a lot harder to edit and you can't run like multiple lines together. But you can sometimes do like quick stuff here if you need to, but here is really where you want to be running the code. So we installed the tidyverse package, which is like what you're going to use for every project, NFL related or not related. We installed the NFL fast R package, which is the NFL data and has the team's colors and logos and stuff. So this time we're going to be using some other packages. So if you are, installing these or using these for the first time, you're going to want to type install.packages and then GG themes. So this will give us some cool themes that we can work with on when we make our graphs. And then you also want to install packages GG repel. And this will allow us to label players on a scatter plot when we get to that. So I'm not going to run these two lines because I've already installed these packages, but if this is your first time using these packages, feel free to install them and they should work. And another thing is like if packages don't work for you on install.packages, if you just type in GG themes GitHub into Google, you can come and there's different ways to install them that they'll give. Like you can install them directly from GitHub instead of doing install.packages. So that's like something, sometimes like the NFL fast R package doesn't work for people or the GG repel package doesn't work for people. So that's like another way to get around that if needed. So as always, we can load in our libraries. So we want to load in tidyverse, which is, the main library that we'll be using. Load in NFL fast R. GG image, which we installed last week, but if you didn't install it, make sure to just do install packages GG image above. I'll make it bigger so that it's easier to see on Zoom. And library GT, which is for making tables, and then our GG themes. And we're not gonna load in GG repel because like I want to show something with if you have a package installed but you don't load it, but we can run those. So again, to run for those who don't remember from the first video, there's a couple ways to do it. You can highlight it, the lines you want to run, hit Command Enter if you're on a Mac, Control Enter if you're on a Windows. You can click the run button here to run that, and it'll give you the shortcut for running it too. So, whatever way you prefer, I just prefer highlighting and running it. But you can use either way. So we're going to load in our play-by-play data from the NFL Fast R package. And just so we have some, enough sample size, we'll do 2019 through 2022. So we can, load that in. That it'll always pop up this message. Don't worry about it. As long as it loads in the play-by-play data, we'll be fine. And like the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to, so we want to create a graph, let's say, that shows a quarterback's expected points added, like their EPA per play, and how often they pass. And like, I want to see if there's a correlation between how often a quarterback passes and their EPA per play. So what we can do for this is it's going to be a pretty long set of code to get the data in what we want, because right now when we click on play-by-play data right here in the right to open the data set, we can see that there's just all these columns we're going to have to worry about, and all these different rows with each play that's happened in the season. So when we go through this, we're going to have to think logically about what we want to do. So the first thing that you notice right away is there's no downs here sometimes. So these are special teams plays. So we don't want that, because we're only focused on a quarterback's performance. So we can call our data set QB EPA per play, or QB EPA play with underscores. And then we can, so we put our arrow, because we're going to want to say, we're basically saying we're taking our play-by-play data set and having an arrow to put it into QB EPA per play. And then I do the pipe function, which is the line and the greater than symbol. Or if you still want to use the old pipe, it's the parentheses sign, greater than symbol, parentheses sign, or sorry, not parentheses, percent sign. But I use the new pipe now. So, whatever you prefer. If this pipe doesn't work for you, then just use the percent sign, greater than percent sign. So what we can do is we want to filter. And since we want to take out special teams plays, we just want plays where there was a run or a pass. So we can do pass equals 1. And so you want to use the double equal sign inside a filter, because we want to, that's how you want it to equal something. And then we want to do the or symbol, which is just the vertical line. And then rush equals 1. So if we, before I do the pipe, if we run it, we can see here on the right-hand side that we were at 155,000 rows from 2019 to 2020, and we go down to 114,000 rows. So we took out all these special teams plays, which is good. But we're also going to want to there's going to be some plays where EPA column has NAs in it. And when you work with any data set, there's usually going to be columns that have NAs in it. So that's just data that we don't want. It's going to throw off our numbers. When we do other steps, it won't show up. So we have to throw out the missing data, basically. So we can do another pipe, or you could do it in the same filter statement. I just like doing it separately, just so if there's an error, I know exactly where it's happening. And so if we do is.NA EPA, we run this, and now all of a sudden we see there's 2 rows. And so we can open it, we can look like why did this happen? So basically, we only kept rows that have NA in it. So we did something wrong, right? So whenever you're doing something as a not in R, so you're saying you don't want rows with where EPA is NA, you have to do the exclamation point before it at the beginning of the filter. So if we run that, we go back and we're at 114,000 rows again. That seems right. That's the right amount of rows we want to work with. So last week when I was going through this, I cheated a little bit just for the sake of simplicity. And when I group by for quarterbacks, I grouped it on their name instead of their player ID that they have in the data set. And you don't want to do that. Most of the time, you usually want to group by ID because players have the same names or players' names change. So it's good to, and their ID will never change. So when we do our group by, we want to do group by ID and open parentheses, ID, close parentheses, and then a pipe again. And we just want to summarize, we can create their name as, their first column, right? So we want to get the first instance of their name. You could do last if you wanted to, but either way, you're going to get each player's name. So just again, we can run this just to show you what we're working with. And we can see, all right, here's our IDs for each player. Here's our name. And it has the right player. And so now we want to also get the team that they were last on. So we just use first here. We can use last, and we can do it on post team, which is the column for possession team. And so that'll get the team that they're on so that we can join it with the team's colors logos data set that NFL FastStar provides us to get colors and logos for each player based on what team they're playing for right now. We can also get the amount of plays that they've been involved in. So we do plays equals N, open parentheses, close parentheses. And we can also get their EPA per play. So mean EPA per play. And so when we run this, we can see that we have our QB EPA per play data set. But something that happened here is it's not just quarterbacks, right? It's every player that has, either passed or rushed the ball is getting a column here, or sorry, a row here, because we did pass or rush equals 1. So we're going to need a column that tracks the amount of pass attempts that a quarterback has had so that we don't have someone like, let's see here. So we don't have someone like David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs or Nick Chubb in this data set because we just want to look at quarterbacks. So what we can do for this is we can do pass attempts equals, and then we can take the sum of the incomplete pass column, which puts a 1 if it's an incomplete pass and a 0 if it's a complete pass. And then we can also take the complete pass column. So we can take the sum of incomplete plus complete pass. And we're going to want to put NA.RM equals true. So this will say that any NAs, just remove it when we're aggregating here, but don't remove it for all these other things that we're calling, because sometimes there'll be incomplete or complete pass, like a sack won't be either incomplete or complete because there was no pass attempted. So just remove it when we're creating this sum here. So now we can run this summarize. So we have all, 5 of these things in our summarize separated by commas. We can open it up and we can see, all right, there's some players that have 0 pass attempts, but Frank Gore has 364 plays, 0 pass attempts, but we don't want him in our data set. But here, these are the players that have pass attempts. So that's what that kind of looks like. And so so now that we have this data set, QB EPA per play, we can do another filter. So this filter was filtering based on this. This filter is going to be filtering based on the group by summarize that we have. So that's why it's important to think, what your data set looks like at each step. So we can do plays greater than equal to 1,000. This is just an arbitrary number that, I played around with before this, and just to get enough players to make a graph with. But we also want to make sure we have the right amount of pass attempts, right? So I just picked 150, whatever. It's not a huge deal what you pick. Now we have 30 quarterbacks in our data set, which is good. And so we also want to get their pass rate. So we're going to use the mutate function here so that we can take pass attempts and divide it by the amount of plays that they have. So someone like Lamar Jackson should show up pretty low in pass rate because we included his rushes up here, and he runs it so much. Someone like Tom Brady should show up pretty high. So we will create pass rate, which is pass attempts divided by plays. So we have pass attempts that we create here, we have plays. And then we're also going to want to join our teams, colors, logos data set that's already loaded in for us. And we call this variable team right here. So we'll do team equals team underscore abbreviation, which if you remember from the last video, that's what the team abbreviation is called in the team's colors logos data set. Run that. Cool. Did anyone have any trouble with that like chunk of code? Awesome. Okay, so now we can make our plot, and we're going to want to make a scatter plot. And so I thought it would be helpful to show what this would look like so that we can kind of visualize it. So this is going to be our finished product. And so what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put pass rate on our x-axis. We're going to want to put EPA per play on the y-axis. We're going to want to put each team color and their name. We're going to have a legend. So this is what it should look like when we're done with it. Just to get a feel for why we're doing each step. So now let's make that plot. So QB EPA per play. We do our pipe, and then when we get into ggplot, we start using our plus signs instead of our pipe. We only use a pipe to get from our data set into ggplot, which is kind of like another language in its own, but it's still in R. So on our x-axis, we want pass rate. On our y-axis, we want EPA per play. And then we start using our plus signs. And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to, geom point. And we're going to want to use our AES to get into, the actual names. So we want to fill on team color. And we want to color it on team color too. So their primary color and their secondary color. And then let's just make the size plays just because, we can, and we just want to do as many things as we can right now while we're learning. You're going to want to close your AES because the next two calls that we're going to do in geom point are not specific columns in our data set. So we can close our AES. And we can use shape equals 21, which allows us to do two colors, an inner color and an outer color. And we're also going to want to do alpha equals 0.9. So this is how dark the dots are. So I just do 0.9. You can do, whatever. But when we run this, we can run this here. What happens is it shows up with all the wrong team colors. And so something that I always forget to do is you have to do scale color identity. So when you're feeding in these colors that we have in the data set that are these hex values like team color and team color 2, it doesn't pick it up right away until you specify that scale color identity aesthetics equals fill and color. And remember, we make the C to make a list of things. If we just did it without the C, it wouldn't work. So we can run this again, just so you can see there. Now we have our team colors. So if you remember at the top, we installed ggRepel as a package, but we didn't load in the library. And so something you can do if you don't load in a library, but you still have it, is you can call ggRepel and do 2 colons, and you'll have geom text repel to work from. And that's what we want to use for this. So anytime you didn't load in a package, but you want to use it, you can call it with 2 colons and then use any of the functions inside of it. So we're going to want to label each thing, and we want to label it with name that we created above here. And then we don't need to use anything else inside the column. So we close the AES parenthesis, put a comma there, and we just want to say, actually, no, we don't have to do anything here. We can just keep it. And then we want to add our theme. So we'll just do theme black, white, the classic. Later on, I'll show some other themes, but we'll get there. And we also want to create our average lines, right? Like what does average mean here? So or where are you above average and where are you below average? So geom H line, which stands for horizontal line, we'll want to do, we'll want to take the mean of QB EPA play. And we can see on our Y axis, it's EPA per play. So we do that. Specify that we want the line to be dashed. And then, yeah, then we can do the same thing for our vertical line. We can take the mean of the QB EPA per play data set, and then pass rate is on our x-axis. Line type equals dash. So let's take a look at what our plot's looking like so far before we do some of the final things to it. So it's looking a lot like the picture that I showed earlier. Just a couple things to clean up. You know, we got to label our axes and we got to make our ticks look nice and all that stuff. So we can do that here. So another plus sign, labs, x equals pass rate, y equals EPA per play, comma, title equals EPA per play. What's that way? Okay. EPA per play and pass rate 2019 through 2020. You know, you can be pretty flexible with titles. This is anything in quotes, like anything in purple on my screen is like, you know, what you can, you know, change. So it doesn't have to be exactly what I type. This other stuff you have to be, you know, more strict about, like this. Like you can't have much flexibility with that. Minimum of 1,000 plays and 150 pass attempts to be included. And then, as always, make sure to put your caption that says your name and, you know, if what you're using the data and stuff, but we can skip that for now because I want to get to some other stuff. So we want to make the ticks, we want more of these ticks, right? Like, it like looks fine, but like it's hard to see the difference between 83 and 81. And we just have a big gap between each tick. So we can do scale X continuous, breaks equal scales. And so then again, this is another instance where we're scales and double colon to get pretty breaks. So if this doesn't work, make sure to do, actually we can do, if this doesn't work, make sure to do install packages scales. It should be there for you, but sometimes it doesn't work for people. So just run installed packages scales. Doesn't work, but this is not a huge deal. Like as long as you have the rest of the plot, it's fine. And then we can just specify, okay, we want 8 tick marks, or we want 8 breaks. Same thing for the y-axis. 8, and then so we can run that. And so we can see that the ticks are looking better. We can see more EPA per play ticks. The thing I don't like about the plot right now is the title and the subtitle don't really stand out to me. So we can add on to the theme. So we have theme black and white up here, but we can change parts of the theme that we want. So if we do plot.title and equal it to element text, and then we can specify I want this to be big, so size 22, and then I want it to be in the middle. So we do our horizontal adjustment, HJust to 0.5, put a comma there, and then we also want it to be bold so that it stands out. Base equals bold. And we want to change the title, and we want to put in the middle as well. So put a comma after just one parenthesis there. Plot.subtitle equals element text, size equals, let's do 16, and HJust equals 0.5. Run that. Oops. Oh, I forgot to put an equal sign here. So there we go. Now we have a big title. We see all our names. We have a legend. Looks great. Make sure to save your plot. I just called it EPA pass rate.png. I put the width to 14, height to 10 usually, but you can do whatever you want. Some people make their plots squares, do like width 14, height 14, which looks cool, but do whatever. So once you save it, I don't know if I touched on this in the last tutorial, but if you go to the NFL, like whatever you call this, our like project you're working on, I call it NFL Tutorials 2022. There, it'll save in like that folder. So like that's like where this is, right? And like I guess I put it in its own separate folder for GitHub purposes, but like if I run this, you can see like the graph will be here, like for you. So this is where you can go grab it and post it and do whatever you want with it. Cool. Any troubles there? Awesome. Okay, so that's how to make a scatter plot. Now we can make a bar plot. Again, I'll show the finished product of it just so that you know why we're doing what we're doing. Oh, wait, that's not allowed. Okay, well, that's not what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to have like a white background, but it's gonna be a bar plot that kind of looks like that when we make it. I don't know why it's being weird right now, but yeah. Okay, so let's make the bar graph, and then we'll make a table, and oops, and that'll be the three things that we're gonna do today. So we do our pipe, QB EPA per play. We're just gonna make a bar graph with like the same data that we just did. So ggplot, and for a bar graph you only have one variable, so we're just going to use EPA per play. So this is just going to be a player's EPA per play from 2019 to 2020. Pretty simple. 2022, pretty simple. So if we do EPA per play y equals name, and then actually wait, if I just run this, so we can see that it orders players in backwards alphabetical order, which is like, I mean, it's not like super useful. You want to see the players in order from either bottom to top or top to bottom. So we can use, what we can do is on the y axis, which is where these players are right now, we can do this function called FCT reorder. So we specify, first of all, what's going to go there, and then what we want it to order by. So if we do it, FCT reorder on name by EPA per play, we can have both of that there. So then we do our geom bar, and so this is where we'll create it with colors. So we do our plus sign, geom bar, AES, because we want to access team color, and then we want the outside of the bars to be their alt color. And then we can close the AES, but still keep geom bar open, because we need to specify stat equals identity. I don't know why we have to do this, but every time I make a bar graph, I always forget to do it, and R reminds me. So close your AES, stat equals identity, alpha equals 0.9, and we can make that. And just to show, I want to keep showing as we're working here. We have this so far. At least we can see they're ordered. There's a lot of work to do, but we can see they're ordered. So as usual, we have to do scale color identity to get these colors into the hex colors that we want. Aesthetics equals fill and color, plus sign. And we can try a new theme here. Let's do theme minimal instead of theme black white like we did up here. And so let's run that just to show what we have. This is looking more like a graph, but I don't know exactly who these players play for just based off their colors. Like I need a team logo there. So we go into our geom image, and we haven't used this in this tutorial yet. So this will place an image for us. We do our AES and then parentheses so that we can access a column from the data set. And then we do team logo ESPN, which if you go to the data set, team logo ESPN has a logo for each team, right? So if you copy that, put it, boom, that's the PNG right there. 500 by 500. We'll use team word mark in the next thing we're going to do. So be ready for that. So what we want to do is, so if we run this, it'll take a little while to run more than the other stuff we're doing because it's putting logos there. So like this looks fine, but it would be cool if the logos weren't at covering up the end of the bar and instead we're a little bit out. So what we're gonna have to do is we can't just move it over in one direction because there's some quarterbacks that have negative EPA per play. So we need to move it in a positive direction when they have positive EPA per play and a negative direction when they have negative. So what we can do for that is we can do x equals, so this is accessing, where the x is. If we put x equals 0.3, it would put all their logos on 0.3. But we can just do x equals if else. If their EPA per play is greater than 0, and we can see if else is a test, then what actually happens and then what not. So if their EPA per play is greater than 0, move it to the right 0.1, and right EPA per play is small, so it's 0.1 will be enough. But if it's less than 0, so if it doesn't pass the test here, it'll come here, move it to the left 0.1, so minus, subtract something from it. So we can close our AES and we just have this one parentheses left to close geom image. And then you're going to want to do aspect equals 16 divided by 9, which will make the logos look nice in the right aspect ratio. And then size equals 0.0. Let's just do 3.5. When you make like an actual team logo plot, it'll usually be 0.05, but let's just do 0.35 because like we have a lot of quarterbacks here and we don't want them to overlap. So there we go. Now this looks really nice, right? The logos are just hanging off the edge and we can see, which logos, but we need to fix up our labels. We need to add a title. We need to do all that stuff. So I'll go kind of fast through this part for time purposes, just because we already did this above here, right? So x-axis equals EPA per play, comma, y-axis, we want to say that these are quarterbacks. Title, each quarterback's EPA per play, 2019 through 2022, comma, subtitled equals minimum of 1,000 plays and 150 pass attempts. So basically the same thing that we just did above. And like sometimes if you're making the same graph in two different ways, you can just copy and paste it. Cool. We have our title, everything. Again, title's not centered and bold, and then subtitle's not centered, so we got to fix that. And also, there's too many grid lines, so I'm going to show how to do that. So we're going to want to do plus theme so that we can change our theme minimal up here. Panel.grid.major. So this accesses the major grid lines in the thing. And let's just set that to element blank. So let's completely get rid of it. Let's run it just to see what it did. There we go. So we only have the minor grid lines now. On the x-axis, we got rid of all the each quarterback doesn't need a grid line. Come back into our theme, put a comma. And again, like we can literally just copy and pasting isn't good. But like it's the same exact code. Like we can just copy and paste it from above and run it. Yeah, be careful when you copy and paste, but like it's tempting to a lot of the times. Okay. So now we can do our GG save again. Just call it bar EPA. Width equals 14. Height equals 10. DPI equals retina. Save that. Come into our Finder. Type in NFL tutorials 2022 or whatever you called your project. and you'll find bar EPA. I don't know why it's saving like that. It's supposed to be a white background. Like you can see like if it's like in the Finder thing. So that's something I'll have to fix. Maybe it's a problem with the minimal. 1 second. Let me try to fix something. Okay. Okay, it's a theme minimal problem then. So I mean we can, we can use other themes here. Like there's like if you just type in theme underscore, there's all these themes that you can use. So like theme dark, if you want to, make the plot dark. Or like anything, like just I guess theme minimals is just like saving weird right now. Like this doesn't look good, but like you can use any theme that like you can find here. Theme economist, like the Economist uh magazine or whatever it is. So yeah, so that's that. Sorry, I don't know why theme minimal didn't work. Did anyone have any issues with any of the graphs before we go on to the making the table? Awesome. Okay, cool. We'll make this table and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so for the table, we're going to want to use the data set that we've been working with. But if we just did, so you use GT to make the table. So if we just did QBEP apply GT based on what we have in the current data set, it's going to put all these rows in there that we don't need. We don't need to see their team colors. We don't need all these links, right? So what can we do with that? Well, first we want to, just like we did with FCT reorder up here, we want the best quarterbacks at the top, worst quarterbacks at the bottom, or you could do vice versa, depending on, what you're working on. So we have to arrange it from EPA per play, and you have to do a minus sign because its default is to do worst to best, or lowest number to biggest number. So you have to do a minus sign. We also want to get the rank so that if I'm a fan of a team, I can just come and see where my quarterback ranks exactly without having to count it. So we can do mutate rank equals row number, open parentheses, close parentheses. So this is a function that will put in the row number as their rank. Basically, it's what I use for rank. It's what most people do for that. So select sometimes works weird because there's multiple selects. So like select is a part of multiple packages. So sometimes you have to do dplyr, which is like the select we need to select just the columns we need. We don't need the player ID. We want their name though. So we do dplyr : select. Let's take their rank that we just created. Let's take their name. Let's take their team word mark that I mentioned about earlier. Let's take their pass attempts, their amount of plays, their pass rate, and their EPA per play. So now what does that look like when we run GT on that? Okay, so there we go. Rank, name, team word mark. We'll fix this in a second. Pass attempts, plays, an ugly pass rate column, an ugly EPA column. So we need to fix that. So before we make our GT table, we need to first of all, we need to multiply this pass rate by 100 so that we can get it into percent instead of decimals. And we should round it because who needs to see to the fourth decimal? So there's other ways to do this that are a little bit quicker, but just for simplicity, we can do mutate pass rate equals 100 times round function. So the round function will round it to whatever we want. The current pass rate, we want to do it to 3 decimals because it'll be 0.187, and then it'll get multiplied by 100, so it'll become 81.7. So that's what we want to do. So round pass rate, comma 3 for 3 decimals, and then finish that. We're still in the mutate function. We want to do the same thing to EPA per play. Round, EPA per play equals round, EPA per play 2. So we want just 2 decimals for EPA per play. We don't need more. So it's not great practice to have the same column as what we just did. You could call this pass rate 2 or EPA per play 2 and just select those, but we can just do that for now. It's usually what I do anyways. But you usually don't want to overwrite data. So now we can make our GT table. So this was all data manipulation. Now we can make our table. So GT, open parenthesis, close parentheses, pipe. It's a little weird that the rank is on the left side, the name is on the, or sorry, the rank is on the right side, the left is on the name is on the left side. So we can do calls align. Oh, sorry, calls align. Align equals center. So let's run that just to see what we got. And now everything's in the center, which looks a lot nicer. And then we can access our GT extras package that we didn't load in, but you installed in the first tutorial, which if it doesn't work for you, just go GT extras, GitHub, and either do install packages GT extras or remotes install GitHub GT extras. Either one of these will work. GT extras, and we want to make this team word mark column that we have here into the actual team word marks. So we can do GT extras :: GT underscore image or IMG underscore rows team word mark. Run that just to see what we have. And now we have Patrick Mahomes Chiefs, Aaron Rodgers Packers. Looks a lot better than what we were doing before. You never want to have lowercase or underscores in any headers or labels or anything. So now we have to go through and label each column, which is a little bit of a tedious process, but it'll look a lot better. So rank equals rank capitalized, name equals quarterback. We're going to just do this in calls underscore label. Team word mark, most people will figure out why their team is there, so we can just leave that blank. So we can do open quote, close quote, pass underscore attempts equals pass attempts. Let's scroll over. Plays equal plays. Pass rate equals pass rate. EPA per play equals EPA, or EPA underscore play equals EPA per play. Run that, and now we see we have our capitalized column names. This is just extra stuff. It's just window dressing. That's what this tutorial is for. So we can access our GT because we have some themes to play around with, right? Theme 538 looks like that. We have a table that looks exactly like the tables in 538. Like that's pretty sick. But I like using GT. Oh, I like using no wait, what is it? Hold on. GT theme ESPN. Run that, and we'll have a table that looks exactly like the ones in ESPN. I like this because it alternates the rows. Another thing we can do is we can show the separation between Mahomes and Rodgers, and when we get down into the negatives here and all that stuff. So why don't we do GT extras again? So like we should have probably just loaded in GT extras so that we didn't have to keep doing this double colon, but like I wanted to show how it worked. GT whole call numeric, and so this will take it and oh wait, I'm dumb. We have to put what column we want to do it on. So we want to do an EPA because that's what we sorted it by, right? So now we have Hulk colors. So it starts in dark green, goes down to light green, shifts to white, and then becomes purple and then dark purple. And this is a really cool palette that makes tables look really nice. So we have our table here, right? Like if we expand this out, we have our rank, our quarterback, what team they play for, pass attempts, plays, how often they pass. We can see Lamar Jackson 64%, a pocket passer like Tom Brady 81% or 88%. So very cool. Saving GT tables doesn't work exactly like saving plots. Like for saving plots, you just have to have the plot up and you can save it. GT tables, you need to like put it towards something, right? So we can just call it QB GT. And so this will create a GT object here. So, it's a list of 16, whatever that means. So it's like this. So don't worry about that. Just like click GT save or type in GT save to save your GT table. We called it GT or QB underscore GT. And then we can make a PNG out of it. Save that. And it'll take a little longer to save than plots. And then we open up our NFL tutorials 2022 folder or whatever you called it. And we have our table just like this. So it looks really cool. It's a cool theme, it's a cool color scheme. I like the team word marks, all that stuff. So that's all, that's what I have for today. Just to review, created a scatter plot, created a bar plot, created a table. And so I'll put the GitHub link, which was all the code that we wrote today, in the YouTube link if you're watching on there. And then we'll keep doing these tutorials every other Monday. So if you want to join on Zoom, if you're part of Michigan Football and Link Society, feel free to join. I think it's a lot easier if anyone runs into a problem. But if you're watching on YouTube, always feel free to reach out to me through the YouTube channel, on Twitter, or anything like that if you run into any issues, and I'd be glad to help. So we'll probably do some basic linear regression modeling in tutorial number 3, but yeah, this was tutorial number 2 on data viz using NFL data. So hope everyone enjoyed and all the code worked and everything. Okay. Oh,